Well, Saints fans, we are back here once again after another demoralising loss. My name is Ari. Welcome back to the Predicted 23, coming up against the Pies this week. And well, I think it's safe to say it is time to inject some youth back into this side. Before I go over the changes, I know there's a lot of players we want to get in. There's a lot of young talent playing at Sandy, playing really good footy down there. We're not going to make 7 or 8 changes this week, though. So I'm just going to call this phase 1 of the youth rollout. So there's definitely some names that I think should be in, but probably just don't make it this week. However, I think spots will continue to open up for those young players. And yeah, the senior players in this team are definitely on notice. So let's get into the team. Here it is. 4 changes in: Darcy Wilson, Hugh Boxall, Mateus Philippou, Alex Taru being dropped, Zach Jones, Dan Butler, Hunter Clark, and Ryan Burns. I'll talk about the ins first. I think they're kind of easier to discuss. Darcy Wilson, 32 touches, 4 marks, 5 tackles. Just a fantastic response in the VFL. Exactly what we were looking for from him. So he comes straight back in. Hugh Boxall, 30 touches, 12 tackles. Just a monstrous effort in there. Get him back into that midfield. Absolutely love what he offers us. Mateus, he's a test on the injury report. If he is fit, you absolutely pick him. I'm absolutely praying that he gets up because there's just not a lot of excitement right now around this team. And a player like him, along with Naz and potentially the guy I'm about to talk about next, is going to get Saints fans back to the footy for sure. Alex Taru, he's the guy who's going to debut this week. He has to. I think I said I wasn't going to pick him anymore, but yeah, I think I've been throwing that one out a bit too often lately. Alex Taru, he's got to debut this week. It's time. Sandy, 16 touches, 12 marks. I think 8 of them were intercepts or something close to that. Monster game. Time for him to debut. And if you look at this, we've got our first round draft pick from this year, our first round draft pick from last year, and our first round draft pick from the year before. If these changes do come to fruition, that's the talent that we'll be injecting into the side. So I would love to see those 4 back in. Being dropped, Zach Jones. Yeah, look, I love Zach Jones, but I think the reality is it's just time for him to come out of the side and for us to start playing some youth. I'm not sure what we're looking at for him in terms of his future at the club. I think he's a really good player. Definitely offers some experience. Has a lot of grunt. I like what he offers, but I'd say his future, there's certainly some question marks over it that Sauce will be going over at the moment. Dan Butler, look, some senior players are just we're going to have to swing the axe and cut a few of them. Dan Butler, I'm sorry, you were fantastic against Melbourne, but you got subbed out and were just pretty much unsighted that entire game while you were on. Again, I love him. When he's at his best, he's absolutely firing, and I still believe he's in our best 22. He's 29. Will he be around when we're in the window? It's hard to say. And I want him to come back into the side when he's got some form, but I just think with the talent we've got at Sandy, playing the way they are, people are just going to have to make room, and he's unlucky, but that's just the way it's got to be from now on. Hunter Clark, again, I truly believe Hunter Clark's best footy is in our best 22, and he's only 26, so I think he could earn this spot back. I hope he does, but none of them are doing enough to hold their spots when there's blokes just playing really good footy in the twos. It's not necessarily that they've been terrible, but they're just not doing enough to justify not bringing in these guys. So I'm sorry, Hunter Clark, but he's on that list as well. Ryan Burns, again, look, he's had plenty of chances this year. He's played every single game, which I think is great. I think he's around the 23-year mark. So certainly we want to keep getting games into him, but maybe there just has to be a bit of a revolving door where if you're playing well at Sandy and you're not giving us a lot at senior level, someone's going to come and take that spot. Maybe he's unlucky. And look, there could be a number of players who could also be on this list of being dropped and not these 4. These are just the ones that I think are most likely. I'll go through the others in a sec, but these are the ones that when we're talking about injecting youth into the side, taking out, some of the older players who aren't giving us what we want. I think these are the 4 names, unfortunately for them, but that's the way I think it might have to be. So in contention, like I said, there's some players who I think should come in, but just, we can't make 7 or 8 changes. Hugo Garcia, what's his stats? 24 touches, 10 tackles, a goal. Just a standard Hugo Garcia Sandringham game. Wouldn't be surprised to see him come into the side this week either. But if it's not this week, it'll be next or, very shortly. So He is certainly a watch to come back in sometime soon. Liam Henry, I mean, I want him in this week. Honestly, I would pick him this week, but he's one that I said I wouldn't pick, and I'm going to stand by it because I just don't know the situation there. But seriously, this guy is a very talented footballer. We were talking about on the podcast, who do you want to see on the membership ads? You know, who's going to sell a St Kilda membership? Liam Henry, at his best, 23 odd years of age, he's going to sell a St Kilda membership right there. So I want to see him back in ASAP. Max Heath, another discussion we had on the podcast about, you know, if we do acquire TDK, what we do with Rowan Marshall is a big question. And I want to see a full game from Rowan Marshall in the forward line. 1, 2, maybe 3 games there. And it's about time Max Heath debuts, and this gives us a good excuse for it. So whether it's this week or not, I want to see Max Heath come into the side at some point this year because he's out of contract. We've had him on the list for 3 or 4 years now. Picked him up in a mid-season draft back in 21, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, time to get the Moose out there. Ari Schollmaker, one of my favourites from last year's draft. Again, what was his stats? 28 touches, 26 of those were kicks, 6 marks. Yeah, he's another one that I think we really should be investing in, developing. In saying that, with all these players, I'm not saying just give them games for free. These guys are all performing at VFL level. They deserve to be picked. And Ari has probably been the most patient of all of them. He's played some really good footy down there. Obviously, he still has some work to do in certain aspects of his game, but he's been very patient, and I think, yeah, his time to be recalled is certainly soon. Liam O'Connell, another one who's just been really solid for us, who I think we should continue to invest in. Probably not this week, but sometime soon. I think Jimmy Webster, 32 years of age. I'm just keeping him in this week because we can't drop all of our senior players, and I do think Jimmy sets a good example. He's hard at the ball. He's just hard on his sleeve. I know it's cliche to say, but he truly is, and we're not seeing a ton of that recently. So I'm keeping Jimmy Webster in, but long term, maybe that's the spot O'Connell takes. I don't know. So the boys holding their spots that, you know, are in danger. Look, Mason Wood has been a fantastic player for us. We picked him up, I think, in the SSP selection a couple years back. He's been fantastic for us. Even this year started well. I think he went out with concussion maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. Since he's come back in, look, I'm just being honest, his form hasn't been great. We've had him in the forward line because the forward line has been, you know, crying out for a toll or just someone that can kick and mark. So we've kind of put him there. So I sympathize with him. I understand he's struggling. It's not the role that he's used to. But in saying that, he's a senior player. He needs to lift. We need to hold these players accountable. And I'm just sick of those performances. Thursday night, that was just absolutely deplorable. So Mason Wood, you know, it's time to get going again. Maxi Hall, another young player I want to continue to invest in. So I'm keeping him in the side for that reason, as well as, you know, he hasn't. It's not like he's fallen off a cliff. He's had some so-so games, but for the most part, been really solid this year. I mean, Keeler, talk about giving free games to someone. I first of all, let me say he does deserve his spot, but he's going to get free games anyway because we don't have any tolls in the side. So he has to play. You know, at this point, what other option do we have? But like I said, he is deserving of his spot at the moment. He has been playing really good, so he does keep that spot. Travalia, look, he's one of the few that I'd say, I just think even if his form has dropped a little bit, he's got to be in the side. Picked him in the top 10. He needs to play. We need to invest into him. We need to invest in all these young players that we think can make it there. Make it into the team that we think will eventually win us a premiership. So Travalia, on watch, but certainly stays in the side this week. I think with him as well, he just needs confidence. When he gets the ball in hand, he has really good skills. We've seen it, you know, at VFL level, you know, in the Prackies earlier this year, but it looks like he just doesn't want to be responsible for, you know, a direct turnover or anything like that. So he's like, the safe option, I'll just bomb it down the line. You know, Trav, mate, back yourself and have a go, you know, just back your skills. We back you in. I want to see how it goes. Jeez, I didn't expect this to be such a passionate episode of the Predicted 23, but I'm really getting into it this week. Jack Carroll as well. I think you got to keep him in. He had 5 touches, came on as the sub, and 3 of those were clearances. I think there's some untapped potential there. And hopefully, you know, Ross and the coaches can develop him into a nice player. So I want to see him keep that spot. 22 years of age. He hasn't had a full game yet. I've currently got him slated as the sub just because I really can't see anyone else I'm taking out of that team. Boxall is maybe one that you'd put as the sub, but I just don't want to do that. I want to get full games into him. So anyway, Carroll keeps his spot. Let's go over the team from the full back line. Liam Stocker, Anthony Caminiti, Jimmy Webster. Half back line, Nasai Wangani Malira, Callum Wilkie, Jack Sinclair. On the wings, Darcy Wilson and Bradley Hill. Half forward line, Mitch Owens, Mason Wood, Max Hull. Full forward line, Isaac Keeler, Cooper Sharman, Jack Higgins. In the ruck, we've got Rowan Marshall, supported by Mateus Philippou, Jack Steele and Jack McRae in the midfield. On the bench, Toby Travalia, Hugh Boxhill, Alex Taru, the Flying Viking, to surely make his debut. Marcus Windhager, Jack Carroll as the sub, and Max Heath, Liam Henry, and Hugo Garcia as the emergencies. There you have it. I don't know what's called, how to brand this episode of the Predicted 23, because we're in a hole right now with the crowds, everything about the club. Just it's been a bit of a mess these last few weeks. I think we've won 2 out of our last 9, or something horrible like that. So it's time to just get some excitement around the club again, and I think blooding some of these youngsters is going to do that. And hey, when we beat Freo, when we beat Geelong, we had 7-8 first to third year players in the side. So let's get back to that and see how we go against the Pies. You never know. It would be so us to win this game after the horrible run we've just had. So you never know. Keep the faith. Up the mighty Saints. We'll talk next week.